The honey badger had escaped again. Layla Okoye wiped sweat from her forehead as she tracked the small creature through the tall grass of the African sanctuary. 3 weeks of rehabilitation work, and Ripley still refused to accept any form of containment. The animal had survived poachers who killed her entire family, a gunshot wound to her shoulder, and 2 months of recovery. Nothing scared her anymore. "Come on, girl," Layla called softly, spotting the distinctive black and white markings near an acacia tree. "I brought fresh meat." Ripley ignored her completely, digging furiously at something in the ground. Probably a scorpion or snake. The honey badger ate venomous creatures like candy, immune to toxins that would drop an elephant. Layla had learned to stop worrying about it. A group of visiting researchers stood by the sanctuary fence, cameras ready. They wanted footage of the famous rescue case. Layla had explained 5 times already that honey badgers were impossible to train, fearless to the point of stupidity, and would attack anything regardless of size. The scientists loved it. They took notes about Earth's most aggressive small predator. Then the sky split open. A circle of blue light appeared above them, silent and impossible. It expanded like ripples on water, growing wider until it covered half the sanctuary. The researchers screamed and ran. Layla stood frozen, watching geometric patterns dance inside the light. Her brain refused to process what her eyes were seeing. Something pulled at her. Not physically, but deeper, like invisible hands reaching through her chest and tugging at her core. Her feet left the ground. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. The world stretched and twisted around her. Ripley launched herself upward, teeth bared, attacking the light itself. The honey badger somehow caught the edge of whatever force was lifting Layla. They rose together into the impossible circle, through sensations that had no name, and out the other side. Layla crashed onto a metal floor. Her stomach lurched. Everything smelled wrong, tasted wrong. Ripley landed beside her, already on her feet, growling at their surroundings. They were in a massive chamber with walls that seemed to shift colors. Dozens of creatures filled the space, none of them human. A being covered in gray armor towered 3 meters tall, its forearms checking weapons. Nearby, something that looked like living crystal hummed with internal light. An insectoid creature clicked its mandibles while adjusting a helmet. More shapes moved in the shadows, too strange to understand at first glance. "What is this?" Layla managed to stand, her legs shaking. "Where are we?" A voice filled the air, speaking perfect English directly inside her head. "Welcome, contestants, to the Centennial Survival Trial. You have been selected to represent your species in the galaxy's most prestigious test of endurance." 3 figures materialized on a raised platform. They wore flowing robes that defied physics, faces hidden behind masks of light. "The Galactic Survival Council," the voice explained. "They organize this competition every 100 cycles, gathering specimens from across known space. The trial is simple," the voice continued. "Survive for 30 rotations on the world below. The planet contains hazards from previous civilizations, engineered predators, and environmental extremes. You may use any means necessary. Only one contestant has ever emerged victorious in the trial's 1,000-year history." Layla's mind raced. This was insane. Aliens were real. She had been kidnapped. And apparently she was supposed to fight for survival against creatures that looked like they could tear her apart. The armored giant noticed her and laughed, a sound like rocks grinding. "A human? From that garden world?" His voice boomed across the chamber. "The council's selection must be malfunctioning. Look at it, no claws, no armor, no natural weapons. This will be entertaining for perhaps an hour before something eats it." Others joined the laughter. The crystalline beings chimed like bells. The insectoids clicked in what might have been amusement. Layla felt her face burn with humiliation and rage. "And what is that small creature?" another voice asked. "Some kind of pet." "How adorable. It will die first." Ripley's growl intensified. The honey badger took 2 steps toward the nearest group of aliens, lips pulled back to show her teeth. Several of them actually stepped backward. "This is wrong," Layla said, her voice stronger now. "I didn't volunteer for this. You can't just take people." "The trial's rules are absolute," the council voice replied. "All participants are bound by ancient law. You will compete, or you will forfeit through death. There is no third option." The floor beneath them began to glow. Sections of metal rose up, forming individual pods barely large enough for one person. Layla realized these were dropships. They were actually going through with this nightmare. Contestants will be distributed randomly across the trial planet, the voice announced. You will find no technology, no supplies, no assistance. The environment will test everything you are. Survive and you will be returned to your world with great honor. Fail, and your species will know you died attempting glory. Layla scooped up Ripley, holding the wriggling honey badger close. The animal's heart beat rapidly against her chest. At least they were together. At least she wasn't alone. The armored giant called Grell moved to his pod, weapons secured across his back. Try not to die immediately, human, he called out. I want the galaxy to see what happens when soft species leave their protected worlds. Your death will teach the council to select proper warriors next time. The pod closed around Layla before she could respond. Through the transparent section, she saw the other contestants sealed in their vessels. Ripley squirmed in her arms, confused but not afraid. Never afraid, the pods launched. Layla's stomach dropped as they fell away from the station, down toward a planet that looked like something from a horror film. Purple clouds swirled around continents that glowed with unnatural light. She could see storms larger than countries, mountain ranges that scraped space, oceans that seemed to boil. This was supposed to kill her. This was designed to break anyone who landed on it. Layla held Ripley tighter and whispered, Well, girl, we've handled worse. Remember those poachers? Remember when you ate that cobra? This is just another Tuesday for us. The honey badger made a snorting sound that might have been agreement. The pod screamed through atmosphere, shaking hard enough to rattle teeth. Layla closed her eyes and thought about home, about her sanctuary, about all the animals waiting for her return. She would survive this. She would make it back. She refused to die on some alien death world because a council of cosmic bureaucrats decided to grab random people for entertainment. The pod hit something, and everything went dark. Pain woke Layla. Sharp, insistent pain across her ribs and shoulders. She gasped and opened her eyes to green darkness. The pod had crashed through what looked like a jungle canopy, except the leaves dripped with something that hissed when it hit the ground. Acid rain. Perfect. Ripley was already out, sniffing around the wreckage. The honey badger seemed completely unbothered by the hostile environment. She pawed at a strange plant with thorns the size of fingers, then lost interest and trotted back to Layla. Okay, Layla said, forcing herself to stand despite protesting muscles. Assessment time. The pod was destroyed, split open like a cracked egg. Some of its metal panels could be useful. The transparent section had shattered. No supplies, no food, no water, just like the council promised. Beyond their small crash site, alien forest stretched in every direction. The trees had bark that looked like scales. Things moved in the branches, too quick to see clearly. The air tasted wrong. Not enough oxygen, or maybe too much of something else. Layla's head swam with each breath. She needed water first, then shelter, then food. Basic survival priorities, same as Earth. Probably. Something roared in the distance, deep and mechanical and angry. Layla's heart jumped. The engineered predators the council mentioned. Or maybe the automated defenses. Either way, staying here seemed like a terrible idea. She grabbed the largest intact panel from the pod, testing its weight, good enough as a shield or roof material. Ripley investigated another strange plant, bit it experimentally and made a disgusted face. Even honey badgers had limits, apparently. Stay close, Layla whispered. I know that's not your style, but please. They moved away from the crash site, Layla watching the ground for threats. Within 10 steps, she found the first one. A plant with innocent-looking flowers suddenly snapped closed around a flying creature that had landed on it. The victim's screams lasted 3 seconds before cutting off. The plant's petals dripped digestive fluid. Everything here wanted to kill them. Every plant, every animal, probably the dirt itself given time. The rain intensified. Drops sizzled on Layla's skin, not quite burning but definitely not safe. She wedged the metal panel between two trees, creating a crude lean-to shelter. Ripley scrambled underneath, shaking water from her fur. They huddled together while the storm hammered their tiny refuge. Through gaps in the trees, Layla saw flashes of light. Explosions, maybe. Other contestants fighting or dying. She counted the flashes. 5, 6, 7 separate locations. The trial had scattered them across this nightmare planet. Hours passed. The rain finally stopped, leaving everything wet and steaming. Layla's stomach cramped with hunger. She needed to find food and water soon, but everything here looked deadly. How did you forage on an alien world where you couldn't tell poison from nutrition? Ripley solved the problem by wandering off and returning with something dead in her mouth. The creature had 6 legs and scales. It also had a stinger dripping with venom. The honey badger had killed it anyway, immune to whatever toxins it carried. "You're showing off," Layla said. But she took the offering. Food was food, she needed fire. Friction-based methods would work if she could find dry material. Layla searched the area, collecting pieces that seemed combustible. Some of the scale bark actually felt promising. She arranged stones in a circle, prepared tinder, and started working with a stick and a flat piece of the pod metal. It took 20 minutes and her hands were raw, but smoke appeared. Then flames. Actual fire in this impossible place. Layla wanted to cry with relief. She cooked the 6-legged creature over the flames, testing small bites first. Her stomach rebelled initially, then accepted the strange meat. Protein was protein. Ripley ate her portion raw, crunching through bones like hard candy. As darkness fell, the forest came alive with sounds. Howls and screams and chittering noises that had no earth equivalent. Layla fed the fire, keeping it bright. Most predators avoided fire, probably, hopefully. A new sound cut through the night. Weapons fire close enough to make her jump. Then screaming. One of the other contestants was dying nearby. The sounds went on for minutes before cutting off abruptly. Layla's hands shook. That could be her tomorrow. Or in an hour. She was competing against species that evolved for this kind of environment. With natural weapons and armor. She had soft skin, dull teeth, and a honey badger who thought attacking everything was a valid life strategy. But she also had something they might not have. Experience with Earth. Her planet was no gentle garden world, despite what that armored alien said. Earth had lions and bears and crocodiles and sharks. It had venomous snakes and spiders and scorpions. It had diseases and parasites and predators that had been hunting humans for millions of years. Humanity survived by being adaptable, by learning, by using tools and planning and working together, except Layla was alone. Well, alone with Ripley. The honey badger curled against her side, radiating warmth and completely unconcerned about the death sounds outside their firelight. "We can do this," Layla said quietly. "We just have to outlast them. 30 days. We've done longer camping trips, that was a lie. Those trips had tents and supplies and safety nets. This had nothing but hostility, but Layla had studied animal behavior. She understood ecosystems. Every environment had patterns, rules, systems of survival. This planet was just another ecosystem. Deadly, yes. Alien, certainly. But still governed by logic she could learn. Day 1 was ending. Only 29 more to go. Something massive moved through the trees outside their firelight. Layla caught a glimpse of metal and flesh combined, too large to be natural. An engineered predator. It paused, sensors or eyes or whatever it used to see focusing on their small camp. Ripley stood up, growling. The tiny honey badger placed herself between Layla and the monster, ready to attack something 50 times her size. The creature studied them for a long moment. Then it moved on, disappearing into the darkness. Perhaps they were too small to bother with. Perhaps the fire confused its hunting programs. Perhaps they just got lucky. Layla didn't sleep that night. She kept the fire burning and tried not to think about how many ways this planet could kill her. Ripley eventually dozed off, twitching in dreams that probably involved attacking things. When pale light finally crept through the canopy, Layla stood and stretched sore muscles. Day 2. Time to find water and a better shelter. Time to start mapping this territory. Time to prove that humans were better at surviving than anyone expected. She kicked dirt over the fire and picked up her metal panel. Ripley stretched and yawned, showing all her teeth. "Ready for another fun day in paradise?" Layla asked. The honey badger sneezed, which seemed like a reasonable response. They headed deeper into the alien forest. 12 days had passed since the trial began. Layla had stopped counting hours and started counting meals instead. 3 dead creatures that looked like lizards crossed with crabs. 1 plant that produced berries Ripley ate without dying. A few insects that tasted like dirt but provided protein. Her body was adapting, learning to process alien nutrients. She had also learned the forest's patterns. The acid rain came every 3rd morning. The flying predators hunted during the hottest part of the day. The ground-based threats moved at night. Between these danger zones existed pockets of relative safety, if you knew where to look and when to hide. Ripley had become invaluable. The honey badger's natural immunity to toxins meant she could test food sources that would kill Layla instantly. Her fearless aggression drove off smaller predators. and her instincts for finding shelter were better than any human intuition. They had moved to a cave system near a stream that ran with almost drinkable water. Layla boiled it anyway, using a container she had fashioned from pod metal. The cave stayed cool during the day and provided protection from the worst environmental hazards. But the real victory was survival itself. Each day alive was another day the galaxy's expectations proved wrong. Layla knew they were watching. The trial was broadcast across countless worlds. Somewhere out there, aliens were betting on how long she would last. Most had probably already written her off as dead. The thought made her angry, which helped. Anger was fuel. She heard weapons fire again, much closer this time. Someone was fighting nearby. The sounds had become familiar. Energy weapons made a sharp crack. Plasma rifles produced a deeper boom. Explosions from grenades or mines rattled her teeth. Layla crept toward the sounds, keeping low. Stupid maybe, but she needed information. Needed to know what was happening with the other contestants. Through the trees, she spotted movement. Two of the armored giants, both badly damaged. One was missing an arm. The other had a hole burned through its chest plate. They stumbled through the forest, fleeing from something. Then Layla saw what chased them. A defense turret, ancient but still functional. It hovered on anti-gravity fields, weapons tracking the wounded aliens. It fired again. The beam cut through the one-armed giant, dropping it instantly. The other tried to run but couldn't move fast enough. The turret calculated angles and fired 3 more times. Silence followed. The turret scanned the area, sensors sweeping across the forest. Layla pressed herself flat against the ground, barely breathing. The machine passed over her location, registered nothing worth killing, and moved on. She waited 10 minutes before moving again. Approaching the bodies felt wrong, but she needed to see, needed to understand. The armored giants were definitely dead. Their advanced technology had failed them. The armor, designed for battlefield conditions, had corroded from the acid rain. The weapons, powered by exotic energy sources, had run dry. These warriors had probably never gone more than a day without resupply, without support systems, without backup. Layla took nothing from the bodies. It felt disrespectful. She did study their equipment, trying to understand how it failed. The energy cells were cracked. The armor joints had seized up. Everything relied on power sources that this environment drained or destroyed. Her primitive method suddenly made more sense. Fire needed only fuel and oxygen. Stone tools never ran out of charge. Knowledge of plants and animals worked anywhere with life. The trial punished sophistication and rewarded simplicity. That evening, Layla sat by her fire and thought about Earth. Her planet was harsh in ways the galaxy didn't understand. Not because of extreme gravity or radiation, but because of constant pressure. Every day on Earth meant exposure to thousands of potential threats. Bacteria, viruses, predators, parasites, weather, other humans. Humanity had survived by being adaptable above all else. They ate anything, lived anywhere, learned everything. They didn't have one survival strategy. They had thousands, and they could switch between them instantly. These alien species had evolved on worlds with fewer variables. They specialized. They perfected one approach to survival and built entire civilizations around it, which made them fragile when conditions changed. Ripley dropped another dead creature at Layla's feet, looking proud. This one had stingers on its tail and pincers like a crab. The honey badger had killed it anyway, apparently for fun. "You're insane," Layla told her. "You know that, right?" Ripley made a huffing sound and started eating her prize. The galactic broadcast must be going wild by now, Layla thought. The weak human was surviving while warriors fell. The primitive methods were outperforming advanced technology. Everything the council thought they knew about survival was being challenged by one exhausted woman and her vicious companion. Day 15 arrived with more acid rain. Layla had mapped the cave systems well enough to find a deep chamber where even the storms couldn't reach. She spent the day maintaining her tools, sharpening her spear, reinforcing her shelter materials. Ripley explored the caves, returning occasionally to report on passages and chambers with characteristic honey badger enthusiasm. Somewhere above, the storm raged. Somewhere out in the forest, automated defenses hunted anything with an energy signature. Somewhere in space, aliens watched and waited for the human to fail. But Layla had learned something important during these 15 days. Survival wasn't about being the strongest or the most advanced. It was about being the most stubborn. about refusing to quit even when every logical analysis said you should. Humans were excellent at being stubborn. That night, she heard new sounds, not weapons fire, not creature calls. Something else. Regular patterns, signals. Another contestant was trying to communicate. Layla moved to the cave entrance and listened carefully. The pattern repeated. 3 short sounds, 3 long, 3 short. Even across the galaxy, apparently. Some patterns were universal. A distress call. Someone asking for help, she should ignore it. Every other contestant was competition. Helping them reduced her own chances of survival. The smart move was to let them die. But Layla thought about the dead giants, about how their culture had made them strong but inflexible. She thought about what made humans different, what made them worth something in this hostile galaxy. Humans helped each other, even when it was stupid, even when it reduced their own chances. They did it anyway. Layla grabbed her spear and checked her supplies. Ripley sensed something happening and jumped to attention, ready for whatever came next. "Come on, girl," Layla said. "Let's go do something really dumb." They left the safety of the cave and headed toward the distress signals. The distress signals led Layla to a ravine where one of the crystalline beings was trapped. The creature had fallen during the storm and now lay wedged between rocks. Several limbs cracked from impact. Its internal light flickered weakly. "Help," it said, the voice chiming like broken glass. "Movement causes fractures. Temperature shifts cause expansion. I am dying slowly." Layla approached carefully, aware this could be a trap, but the crystalline being looked genuinely helpless. Its species had thrived in controlled environments, she guessed. Perfect temperatures, stable conditions. This planet's wild fluctuations were destroying it from the inside. "I can't carry you," Layla said honestly, "and I don't know how to repair your structure." "I know," the being replied. "I have watched the broadcasts when energy permitted. You are the human, the one who survives with primitive methods. I am Shimmer 7-3. My species calculated a 9.7% chance of your survival. We were wrong." "Everyone was wrong," Layla said. She studied the rocks pinning the creature. Maybe she could shift them enough for it to escape. "Why did you call for help if you knew no one would come?" "Because dying alone is the same across all species," Shimmer 7-3 said. "And perhaps I hoped someone would be foolish enough to answer." Layla used her spear as a lever, working at the largest rock. Ripley dug at the smaller stones, spraying dirt everywhere. Together they managed to shift enough weight for the crystalline being to pull itself free, but the damage was severe. Multiple fractures ran through its structure. It could barely move. "I cannot continue," Shimmer 7-3 stated. "My species does not feel pain as you do, but I understand my ending approaches. Thank you for attempting assistance. It was illogical, but appreciated. Can you share information before you go?" Layla asked. The question felt cold, but knowledge was survival. "What have you seen? How many contestants remain?" 5 when I last received broadcasts. "You, the honey badger creature, and 3 others, 2 Hanthar warriors, 1 collective intelligence. The aquatic species expired 6 days ago. The insectoids fell to automated defenses. Others simply vanished, 5 from dozens. The trial was living up to its deadly reputation. The broadcasts show interesting patterns," Shimmer 7-3 continued, its light dimming further. "Your species fascinates the galaxy now. They debate whether Earth is truly a death world. Some claim you simply have better training. Others say humans evolved under unique pressures. There is talk of sending expeditions to study your planet." Layla laughed bitterly. "Earth will love that. Aliens showing up to study us like lab animals. Better than being dismissed as irrelevant," the crystalline being said. "Before this trial, most species viewed humans as curious but unimportant. Now they see potential. Your survival challenges their understanding of strength." The light inside Shimmer 7-3 flickered one final time and went dark. Its structure remained, now just decorative crystal instead of a living being. Layla stood there for a moment, feeling the weight of another death. This trial was murder dressed up as sport. The council had killed this creature as surely as if they had shattered it themselves. She turned away and nearly walked into an ambush. The Hanthar warrior stepped from behind a tree, plasma rifle aimed at her chest. Grell, the one who had mocked her on the station. His armor was damaged, his weapons corroded, but he still looked deadly. "I followed the same signals," he said, hoping to find an easy kill. "Instead, I find the impossible humans still alive." Ripley placed herself between them, growling. The honey badger looked tiny compared to the 3-meter warrior, but she showed no fear whatsoever. Your creature has spirit, Grell said. It will die quickly at least. You don't have to do this, Layla said, gripping her spear. A primitive weapon against advanced technology, but his rifle's energy cell was nearly depleted. She could see the indicator lights. We could both survive if we work together. Hanthar do not share victories, Grell replied. We conquer or we die. There is no middle ground, he fired. The beam went wide as his weapon sputtered, the energy cell failing at the crucial moment. Layla threw herself sideways, rolling behind rocks. Ripley charged directly at the warrior, latching onto his leg with teeth and claws. Grell roared and tried to shake the honey badger off. Impossible. Ripley held on like a furry vice, biting through the corroded armor joints. The warrior dropped his useless rifle and reached for a blade. Layla didn't think. She just moved. Years of working with dangerous animals had taught her to react on instinct. She drove her spear toward Grell's exposed side where the armor had cracked. The weapon struck true, not deep but enough to hurt. Grell stumbled backward. The ground beneath him gave way. Old structures riddled this planet, left by previous civilizations. The surface was unstable everywhere. A sinkhole opened under the warrior's feet. He fell, grabbing desperately at the edge. His hand found purchase on a root. He hung there, too heavy for the root to support for long. Help me, he gasped. Please. Layla stood at the edge, looking down at the alien who had mocked her, who had just tried to kill her. Every survival instinct said to let him fall. One less competitor, better odds. But she thought about Shimmer 7-3 dying alone. She thought about what made humans different from these warrior species. Ripley, stop, she commanded. The honey badger reluctantly released the warrior's leg and trotted back to Layla's side. She extended her spear down to Grell. Grab the other end. Quickly before the root breaks. Why? The warrior looked genuinely confused. I would have killed you. I still might when I am safe. Then you're stupider than you look, Layla said. Grab the spear or fall. Your choice, the root snapped. Grell's hand shot out and caught the spear shaft. Layla braced herself and pulled, using her legs and back like she had learned hauling equipment at the sanctuary. The warrior was incredibly heavy. Her muscles screamed. Her grip started to slip, but she held on. Inch by inch, she dragged him up. When Grell finally scrambled over the edge, both of them collapsed on solid ground, breathing hard. You saved my life, he said after a long silence. I do not understand this action. On Earth, Layla said between gasps, we have a saying. Today you, tomorrow me. Everyone needs help sometimes. Even big tough warriors. Grell sat up slowly, studying her with new attention. Your species is not what the galaxy believes. Not weak, not simple. Something else entirely. We're adaptable, Layla said. And we remember that survival doesn't always mean killing everyone else. A rumble echoed through the forest. Something big was moving. The automated defenses had registered their energy signatures or the fight had drawn attention. Either way, they needed to move. Truce? Layla offered. Until we reach the extraction point at least. Grell looked at his useless weapons, his damaged armor, his wounded pride. Then he looked at the small human who had saved his life against all logic. Truce, he agreed. But the Hanthar Empire will hear about this. About you. They gathered their supplies and headed deeper into the forest. A warrior, a woman, and a honey badger walking together through impossible circumstances. Day 22 found them traveling together through territory that grew increasingly hostile. The automated defenses were more concentrated here, ancient machines still following programming that had outlived their creators by centuries. Layla had learned to recognize their patterns. They responded to energy signatures, rapid movement, and specific threat profiles. Walking slowly and staying low worked. Primitive methods remained invisible to machines designed to counter advanced warfare. Grell struggled with this concept. His entire culture celebrated direct confrontation. Hiding felt shameful. But his weapons were dead, his armor barely functional. He had no choice except to follow the human's lead. My people would call this cowardice, he said as they crawled past a sensor post, moving like prey animals instead of predators. Your people aren't here, Layla replied quietly. We are, and we're still alive. Ripley scouted ahead, her small size and lack of technology making her essentially invisible to the automated systems. She would return periodically to report in her own way, leading them around danger zones that would have killed them instantly. They found shelter in the ruins of an ancient city. Buildings made from materials that predated most galactic civilizations rose from the jungle like broken teeth. Whatever species had built this place had been incredibly advanced. They had also apparently killed themselves with their own creations. The defense systems, Grell observed, studying the ruins, they were never meant to stop invaders. They were meant to stop something from leaving. Layla looked at the patterns carved into the stone, images of creatures that might have been reptilian, their faces frozen in what looked like fear. A prison planet. They built this as a containment zone, and the Council uses it for entertainment, Grell said. There is no honor in this trial. I see that now. They made camp in a structure that still had most of its roof. Layla started a fire using dried materials from inside the ruins. The smoke would be dangerous, but the temperature was dropping. This planet had extreme temperature swings that followed no logical pattern. Grell watched her work with something like respect. You perform these primitive tasks with great efficiency. How long did humans spend in such conditions? Millions of years, Layla said. We only developed advanced technology very recently. Most of our existence was spent exactly like this. Making fire, hunting food, finding shelter. The skills are still in us, buried under civilization. The Hanthar evolved differently, Grell admitted. Our world had few predators. We became apex species early. Technology came quickly. We never learned to struggle the way you describe. Must be nice, Layla said, though her tone suggested otherwise. That night, Grell shared information about the trial's endgame. The extraction point was at the planet's equator, in a zone designated by ancient coordinates. All surviving contestants needed to reach it within 3 rotations once the final phase began. The Council will announce when this phase starts, he explained, usually when only a handful of contestants remain. Then it becomes a race. How many usually survive to that point? Layla asked. In the last trial, 3 contestants reached extraction. Only 1 survived the journey. The Council does not make victory easy. Layla fed more fuel to the fire and thought about the impossible situation. She was still alive against all odds. But reaching some distant extraction point through this hellscape seemed like asking for miracles. Ripley curled against her side, warm and solid and completely unconcerned about impossible odds. The honey badger had spent her entire life facing things that should have killed her. She simply refused to acknowledge limitations. Maybe that was the real lesson. Not that humans were special, but that they had learned from animals like Ripley. They had spent so long around creatures that survived through sheer stubborn refusal to die that it became part of human nature too. I owe you a life debt, Grell said suddenly. Among the Hanthar, this is taken seriously. When we return to civilization, I will speak for your species. I will tell them what I have learned. If we return, Layla corrected. We still have to survive 8 more days and then reach extraction. A sound interrupted them. Not animal calls or defense systems. Something else. Rhythmic and growing closer. Footsteps. Multiple footsteps moving in perfect unison. The collective intelligence emerged from the darkness. It had been one being spread across multiple bodies. Now only 3 bodies remained, moving together with eerie coordination. The strain showed in their movements. The radiation that interfered with their neural connections was killing them slowly. Remaining contestants, the collective spoke through all 3 mouths simultaneously. We are failing. Connection degrades. Individual thoughts emerging. This is death for us. Can we help? Layla asked, though she had no idea how. No. But we offer information before dissolution. The Council has declared final phase begins tomorrow. Extraction point coordinates are being transmitted. Distance is significant. Fastest contestant will require 2 full rotations to reach destination. Why tell us? Grell asked suspiciously. Because the human showed kindness to dying Shimmer 7-3. This was observed in broadcasts. Kindness is rare among violent species. We wish to acknowledge it before we cease. The collective's bodies swayed as another surge of radiation washed over the area. Their coordination broke. For a moment, 3 separate individuals looked out through frightened eyes before the connection reasserted itself weakly. Go now, they said. We will end ourselves before final dissolution. It is less painful than separation. The 3 bodies walked away into the darkness. Minutes later, a small explosion echoed through the ruins. The collective intelligence had chosen their own ending rather than face the horror of becoming individuals. Layla felt sick. Another death. Another victim of this insane trial. We need to move, Grell said, his voice harsh. If the final phase begins tomorrow, we must prepare. They gathered supplies through the night. Layla created crude containers for water from building materials. She packed dried food they had scavenged. Ripley seemed to sense something important was happening and stayed close instead of wandering. Dawn came with new light. Not from the sun, but from the sky itself. The council's announcement materialized as holographic text that hung in the air, visible even through the jungle canopy. Final phase initiated. 3 contestants remain. Coordinates for extraction are now available. You have 72 hours from this moment. Those who fail to reach extraction will remain on this planet permanently. 3 contestants. Layla, Grell, and one other. Somewhere out there, another being had survived against all odds. The coordinates appeared in Layla's mind, implanted by whatever technology controlled the trial. She could feel the direction and distance. 2 days of travel at best speed through the most dangerous terrain yet. We travel together, Grell asked. As far as the extraction point, Layla agreed. After that, may the best survivor win. They left the ruins and headed toward the equator. The race had begun. The 3rd contestant found them first. A massive creature, more machine than organic, crashed through the jungle with enough force to shake the ground. It had been heavily modified, body parts replaced with technology designed for survival in extreme environments. The broadcasts had called it a war beast from the frontier colonies. It moved directly toward them with clear purpose. This was not an animal following instinct. This was a thinking being who had decided that eliminating competition early was the smart strategy. Run or fight? Grell asked, though his damaged state made fighting nearly impossible. Run, Layla decided. It wants to engage. We don't give it that. They bolted through the forest. The warbeast pursued faster than its size suggested possible. Mechanical legs drove it forward with tireless efficiency. It fired weapons from shoulder-mounted systems, beams cutting through trees behind them. Ripley ran at Layla's heels, keeping pace despite her short legs. The honey badger's endurance was legendary. She could run for hours without stopping. Layla's mind raced. They couldn't outrun this thing forever. It had technological advantages despite the planet's tendency to destroy advanced systems. The frontier colonies apparently built tougher equipment, but every advantage had a weakness. Everything that made you strong in one situation made you vulnerable in another. The automated defenses, Layla gasped as they ran. It's using active scanning. Energy signatures everywhere. That will attract the defense systems, Grell realized. But not quickly enough to save us. Layla veered toward an area she had mapped days ago. A section where ancient defense turrets were still active, clustered together like they were guarding something important. She had avoided it carefully. Now she ran directly toward it. Trust me, she shouted to Grell. They burst into the defense zone. Turrets activated immediately, sensors detecting movement and energy. But Layla knew the patterns now. Knew exactly how to move to register as non-threatening. Slow random movements. No straight lines. No aggressive postures. She demonstrated and Grell copied her, his warrior instinct screaming against every motion. They weaved through the zone like they were dancing to music only they could hear. The warbeast crashed through behind them, all power and aggression. The defense turrets identified it instantly as a threat. Every weapon in the zone opened fire simultaneously. The frontier colonies had built their contestant tough, but not tough enough for concentrated fire from a dozen ancient weapons designed to stop invasion forces. The warbeast tried to retreat, but the turrets tracked it, calculated its trajectory, and cut off escape routes. It fell within seconds, systems overloading, biological parts torn from mechanical mounts. Layla and Grell emerged from the other side of the defense zone. Behind them, the turrets went dormant again, threat eliminated. You are terrifying, Grell said with genuine admiration. You killed it without landing a single blow. I didn't kill it, Layla corrected. The planet killed it. I just suggested a meeting. They continued toward extraction, moving faster now. The coordinates pulled at Layla's awareness like a compass pointing north. 30 hours remained. The terrain grew more treacherous as they approached the equator. Temperature extremes, acid pools, predators that made previous threats look friendly. But Layla had adapted. She read the environment like a language she had learned. Grell followed her lead, his pride completely gone now, replaced by the practical understanding that the human knew this planet better than he ever could. They reached the extraction point with 6 hours to spare. A clearing marked by ancient stone pillars completely empty of threats or obstacles. The Council had designated this as neutral ground. No automated defenses, no predators, just waiting. A ship waited in orbit. Layla could feel its presence even though she couldn't see it. Extraction would come when time expired or when only one contestant remained. So, Grell said carefully, we have reached the end. Looks like it, Layla agreed. They stood on opposite sides of the clearing. Ripley sat beside Layla, watching the warrior with alert eyes. I cannot defeat you, Grell said simply. My weapons are gone. My armor is broken. You know this planet's secrets. You have the advantage. You could probably still overpower me physically, Layla pointed out. You're 3 times my size and trained for combat. Perhaps, but your creature would attack me. And even if I defeated both of you, what would that prove? That I am stronger? Grell laughed bitterly. I know now that strength is not what I thought it was. He sat down heavily, looking exhausted for the first time. I will tell the Council you are the victor. You earned it. You survived when everyone expected you to die immediately. You helped others when you should have let them fall. You demonstrated qualities the Hanthar have forgotten we need. You could claim victory, Layla said. I'm not going to fight you for it. Why not? The trial demands one winner. Because I'm tired of death, Layla said. I'm tired of watching beings die for entertainment. This whole trial is wrong. The Council is wrong. Making us kill each other doesn't prove who is strongest. It just proves who is most willing to kill. Grell considered this. The galaxy will not understand. Then we teach them, Layla replied. The extraction beam activated early, startling them both. The Council's voice echoed across the clearing, speaking in all languages simultaneously. Unprecedented situation detected. 2 contestants remain at extraction point. Neither demonstrates hostile intent. This has never occurred in trial history. Good, Layla shouted at the sky. Maybe that should tell you something about your history. A pause. Layla could imagine the Council members arguing. Their ancient protocols disrupted by humans doing human things. Decision reached. Both contestants have demonstrated survival capability. However, trial rules demand single victor. You have 1 hour to resolve this or both will be disqualified and left on planet. No. Grell stood up. I will not fight her. She saved my life. Honor demands I acknowledge this debt. And I won't fight him, Layla added. We both survived your nightmare planet. We both deserve to go home. More silence from above. Then grudgingly, the Council recognizes an impasse. In the interest of galactic observation and unprecedented circumstances, we declare joint victory. This decision creates new precedent. Both contestants will be extracted, the beam intensified. Layla felt the same pulling sensation from 3 weeks ago. Grell reached out and gripped her hand in a gesture of respect. Ripley made an annoyed sound at all the fuss. They rose together toward the waiting ship, leaving the death world behind. Aboard the station, chaos greeted them. The galactic broadcast had reached unprecedented viewership. Billions of beings had watched the impossible humans survive. Now they wanted answers, wanted to understand, wanted to meet the species that changed everything they thought they knew about survival. Representatives from hundreds of worlds waited. Earth's delegation pushed through the crowd, surrounding Layla with relief and joy and 1,000 questions. Ripley caused immediate chaos by attacking someone's decorative creature, proving that even galactic attention wouldn't change her nature. Grell spoke to the Hanthar delegation in low tones. Layla caught some of it. He was describing humans not as weak but as possessing strength his people had never understood. Adaptability, compassion, stubbornness that bordered on insanity. The Council appeared, their masked faces unreadable. The trial will be reformed, they announced. Your survival has demonstrated flaws in our understanding. Earth will be recognized as a Class 7 death world. Humanity will be extended full galactic status. We don't want status, Layla said tiredly. We just want to go home. That will be arranged. But first, there are many who wish to learn from you. Your survival techniques, your approach to adversity, your capacity for cooperation even in competition. These qualities are valuable. Layla looked at Ripley, who was trying to eat something mechanical. She looked at the assembled aliens, all of them seeing humans differently now. She thought about her sanctuary back on Earth, about normal life that seemed impossibly far away. Fine, she said. I'll share what I know. But only if you promise to shut down this trial. No more death worlds. No more forcing people to kill each other for entertainment. The council conferred. Agreed, the Centennial trial will be reorganized with new protocols. Your input will be valued. Weeks later, Layla finally returned to Earth. The sanctuary looked exactly the same, though everything else had changed. Humanity now sat at the galactic table, respected and feared in equal measure. Ships arrived daily bringing aliens who wanted to study Earth's environment. To understand how such a dangerous planet produced such adaptable people, Layla ignored most of it. She had animals to care for, a honey badger to keep from destroying everything, and a life to rebuild. Grell visited occasionally, bringing representatives from other worlds who wanted to learn what he called the human approach to survival. She taught them about adaptation, about learning from failure, about helping others even when it cost you something. Most of all, she taught them that survival wasn't about being the biggest or strongest or most advanced. It was about refusing to give up, about being too stubborn to die, about finding strength in compassion and wisdom in flexibility. The galaxy was learning. Slowly, sometimes reluctantly, but learning. And in her sanctuary, surrounded by Earth's dangerous creatures, Layla felt finally at peace. She had survived the impossible and changed the galaxy's understanding of strength. Now she could return to simpler things like keeping Ripley from attacking visitors and explaining to alien researchers why. Yes, Earth really did have that many things that could kill you. But humans had learned to thrive anyway. That was the real story. That was what made them special. Not that they were unkillable, but that they kept living anyway.